I think my favorite quote is "Character is destiny."
Why is that your favorite quote?
Because it's true, for one thing. I think I'm not somebody who believes in fate or destiny, as like something that comes from the gods or is written in the stars. I really believe that it's up to us and that we create our own path and our own fate, which is not to say that awful things can't happen at random. Of course they can, but once again, it's how we respond to those events that ultimately informs our character, which in turn informs our fate. Hello, everyone. My name is Thrity Umrigar. I'm the author of 10 books, 8 novels, 1 memoir, and 1 children's picture book. This is my most recent novel called Everybody's Son, which came out in 2017. And I wrote this book in part because I'm somebody who's very interested in issues of race. And even though I was born and raised in Bombay, India, it's still Bombay to me. I've lived in the United States for over 35 years. And so I'm deeply interested in issues of race, especially relations between blacks and whites in the United States. And all my novels in some way or the other deal with power, issues of power, and sort of who has the haves and the have-nots. So who has power, who doesn't.
Was there anything that happened that said, alright, I need to start writing about race now? What was the
Yeah,
change in
it wasn't like that. In fact, as crazy as it might sound, the idea for this novel came to me literally from start to finish in the span of about 30 seconds.
30 seconds?
It's 30 seconds. I know, I always feel like nobody's going to believe me if I tell them this, but it's honestly the truth. And I was not even so much as scouting around for another idea for a new novel. I was just going about my life, minding my own business, and all of a sudden I saw this book and I saw the characters. It's the only time in my life where not only did I know the plot from beginning till end, I literally even knew the names of the characters. So the whole story came to me with the names of the characters attached.
Was there any inspiration that derived from that? Because even though it just came in 30 seconds,
That's a great follow-up question.
To write something
Yes,
about race.
I think so. I've been thinking about exactly that for a long time. And so when I conceived of the book, we were in, the waning years of the Obama presidency. And of course, I was deeply affected, not just by the kind of president he had been, but also about the fact that we were going to lose him, through a very democratic process. We were about to lose him as a president. So that was something that was weighing heavily on me. But also, when I was conceiving of the book, it was during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States. And that was deeply affecting and deeply moving to me, that even the slogan itself, in 2016 or whenever it was, somebody actually had to assert what should be the most obvious fact on earth, which is that Black Lives Matter. But somebody actually had to say it and not only sort of create a slogan and a movement around it, but then the inevitable backlash, and then having to defend that, and to be told that somehow you were being a reverse racist by simply asserting the fact that black people too have lives that matter, As somebody once said, this is like when you say save the whales, you're not saying don't save any other fish. You're just saying save the damn whales also,
These things are deliberate though, aren't they? They're there to...
always. It's the nature of social progress that the minute you have something that's gaining currency, there almost inevitably is a backlash against it. It's happened with the civil rights movement, it's happened with the women's movement, it's happened with the gay rights movement. It's the nature of progress.
What do you think the future is for race? In the society, in the States, in general? Where do you see it going in the next 10, 15, maybe even 20 years?
I would like to pretend to have a crystal ball and to be able to give you a definitive answer to that. But I guess I would give you the same answer if you asked me about the nature of progress in any social movement, which is it's going to depend on all of us. You know, if we decide that we want things to go in a certain direction, you know, people power is probably the strongest force on earth. Nothing or nobody can stand in our way. So I don't think the future can be predicted because I don't think the future is a given. It's up to us, each one of us and all of us collectively, to move in a certain direction. I think people like you and I probably have a similar, I'm assuming, a similar stance of where we want that future to go and what we want it to look like. But we could be in this horrible place where we are in terms of racial relations that are stuck and fossilized for 50 years. There's no reason to be optimistic. There's no reason to be pessimistic about it. All we have to do is do the task before us.
Why the United States? A lot of Indian migration was to England and Britain, but I don't really hear a lot of Indian migration to the United States. Maybe I'm just not from the States, that's why.
Yeah.
Why the States over somewhere like UK, for example?
Yeah, you know, in some ways, I mean, having grown up in a post-colonial country like India, I suppose the UK would have been the logical choice. But to be perfectly honest with you, by the time it was, you know, by the time I was thinking of migrating, which was in the 1980s, almost everybody I knew was moving towards the United States. And there was, whether this is true or not, I couldn't tell you, but there was this pretty strong sense that the US in those days was the more racially diverse country, that it was the more accepting of immigration and immigrants country. I don't know, I mean, you're younger than I am, but you know, even as a very young child, I remember reading and hearing about like race riots in London. You know, it was at the peak of the skinheads, yeah, the white supremacist movement. It was pretty strong, and you know, that was chilling to a young person who was thinking about venturing out on her own. Either country, didn't really know anyone. It felt like a no-brainer to go to the United States as opposed to the UK in those days.
And you still stand firm by that decision?
Well, you know, I love the United States. It's home. It's given me more opportunities than I was probably deserving of even. So for me, no regrets. The question is, given what's happening with the immigrant bashing that we're seeing in the US, unfortunately, in the last 2 years, I hope I'm never in a position where I have to advise a young niece or nephew in India about what they should do. I don't know.
Lastly, what do you want people to take away from your book, especially? What are the key points or messages that you want someone to?
You know, it's interesting. I've been thinking about this question a lot of late. And the conclusion I'm coming to is a novel is fundamentally an emotional medium. You know, I mean, it's great when you either write or read a book that makes you think. It's most certainly an intellectual medium also. And in terms of, you know, the storyline itself, I mean, here's me who's neither white nor black, weighing in on the question of race between blacks and whites in the United States. And it's not at all a book about racism per se. It's very much a book about white entitlement. You know, the main character in the book, the father, the white father who sort of uses his power and influence to adopt Anton, the protagonist, when he's 9 years old, he's not a bad guy at all. He just wants what he wants, which is this young boy, and he uses his influence to get his way. I mean, if I've done my job right, I would want my readers to think when they read this book about what it means to be privileged and, you know, how one sort of deals with the privilege that all of us, in one way or the other, have in this life. But more to the point, because a novel is an emotional medium, I want them to feel something. That, you know, moving somebody's heart to me is the bigger challenge and the more satisfying sort of result than anything else.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. Take care.